Hello, it's Jeff from Eli's Garden at eligrowsveggies.com, and I just want to give you a little tour of our garden. Our garden started in 2012 with just a tiny little spot, and then we built our first raised bed, and then it's just grown a little by little. Last year, it was a little smaller last year because we were renovating the house, and so we just had some tomatoes, and we had moderate success. But this year, we have about 50 tomato plants and then several rows of other vegetables like cucumbers and melons, strawberries, and zucchini and yellow squash. And so let me give you a little tour of the place. Here's our chicken pen with a chicken house and chicken run that's enclosed. Keeps the ladies safe from like raccoons and possums and such. The house was built by hand using repurposed materials such as some vinyl flooring on the top, different size boards, and it's up off the ground so the ladies can get underneath it. The chicken run is covered to keep from the rain. It's fully enclosed. The chicken feeders were handmade from 5-gallon buckets. The chicken water was handmade from 5-gallon buckets as well, and has the little nozzles, the little red nozzles that the chickens peck to get the water. The water is automatically hooked up to the drip irrigation system, and it refills as the vegetables are watered. The chicken water also refills. Inside the chicken pen right now, you can see the fall greens that were left over that the hens have been picking on. It's been like chicken heaven around here. I use a metal trash can, just a piece of vinyl to help keep it from the weather, to store the ladies' feed. I generally mix a 50-pound bag of scratch grains with a 50-pound bag of pellets. Laying pellets, which help keep the feed last a little bit longer. The chicken house opens up, the lid opens up so that we can get the eggs out, and we put it on hinges. And inside is a roost for them, but they like to make their bedding. Underneath the bedding is vinyl flooring down here, so it's very easy to clean and maintain. We have a Garden Wizard composter that when it's summer and I'm mowing the grass clippings, I can rake some of them up, put them inside, and they become nice, rich compost. The lid screws on, and then the whole unit on a base rolls, and then I can take it off of the base, and I can roll it in the yard to where I want it to go. Here is our homemade cucumber trellis. It is about 2 feet by 10 feet long. It has this wire fence attached to it here, which is really sturdy and holds all the weight of the cucumbers. It has compost in the bottom topped with wood chips like most of our boxes, and these are cemented posts into the ground, so it works as a really nice trellis and a raised bed as well. I used to till this area right here until I got tired of tilling, and I used some repurposed wood from our remodel to build these 1 by 18 foot boxes. There's 4 of them back here in the back behind the greenhouse, and they are filled with compost, and then they are topped off with wood chips. Currently we have a 18-foot row of yellow squash. We have cucumbers, and it's 2 different types of yellow squash, 2 different kinds of cucumbers. There are 3 different types of melons right there, like honeydews, cantaloupe type of melons. And then the last row back here is a row of strawberry plants. They're strawberry plants that will they'll show fruit both in June and in the fall. So we can get fruit potentially 2 times a year. Here's a storage shed which was already on the property when we bought the house, and it makes it real nice to have a little bit of storage for all the shovels and things like that a garden needs. Right here we have a planting cart that I can move around, a potting cart, and makes it real convenient to have something to move around, and the trusty wheelbarrow. After our initial little square that we first started with, this was the first bed that we built. That's why it's wider than the other ones. I used to think that you had to have large rectangular boxes to work well, and I found that I prefer skinny long row boxes. This one makes it really easy to cover whenever there's going to be a frost. It has those loops over the top, but in sunny Georgia we don't cover it very often. The drip line runs all the way through and throughout. All of the vegetables have drip, and except for the containers. And then the right here are 8 pepper plants, 2 of each different variety, so 4 different varieties in all. And this is filled with compost, and it's topped with lots of wood chips. I've had to pull some of the wood chips out over the years because it was my first time doing it, and I put some rather large wood chips in there. But they've been breaking down quite nice, and we should get a good yield of peppers. Here's our greenhouse. It's a 6x9 greenhouse, and it has thermostat, some plug thermostats. It has electricity in it, and running from the house, and it has a fan, which you can see right here, that automatically turns on and turns off as it needs to vent the hot air. Flaps open on the sides to allow even more air, so as it gets hotter, I open up more and more vents. The greenhouse is made of a nice, thick, woven material, unlike the construction plastic that most people use in homemade. And this should last many more years. It has some vinyl edges on it, and it has an aluminum frame. Inside the greenhouse is part bed over here, for an inside bed, and then there's a floored part, and there's a rack in the back, and then there is a table as well. Right now we have transplanted kale, dill, some cabbage, and then there's some basil in there as well. It's automatically, the fan automatically turns on and heats out or blows out the heat. And also up here are 2 heat lamps that if it gets too cold, it keeps the greenhouse from freezing, and then they automatically turn off once it warms up. Here's our rather messy seed storage seeding pot stand. And then here is a homemade stand that I made to actually grow the seeds on. Right now there's some chili peppers in this container, and there's drip irrigation that runs throughout the greenhouse all the way around. Runs off of a power strip. And then right here, these are either some chili peppers or some eggplants. I couldn't remember what they were, so I went ahead and put them in here underneath this thing, so they'll automatically water this container. As they grow, I'll set them outside. Here's an experimental container that we bought 2 plastic jugs, and we cut them in half. They don't have very good drainage, so this is the perfect spot to plant some of the herbs that like a lot of moisture. Over here we have some romaine lettuce, and then right there we have some spinach, and then we have some Swiss chard over here in this one. Those are all vegetables that like really moist soil, and so since it doesn't drain too well, there are drainage holes in it, and there's drip irrigation for each one running to it, but it doesn't drain as well as I'd like, and so there's only certain things you can put in this. Right here is our rustic A-frame trellis. It was originally built to be a pole bean trellis, but we're not really eating a lot of beans on our Whole30 diet right now, so I planted some extra cucumbers. We love cucumbers. I think I eat probably 3 or 4 a day. It just got some new trellis netting right here. It just got some new trellis netting, so that made it a lot easier than the old string that was there. It's built with timbers that I actually cut down and screwed together, cut down from this property when I was clearing some land. The box is built with old shutters that were on our house, which have now been replaced with vinyl shutters. There's drip irrigation running throughout, and then there is space for 5 cucumber seeds to start. Here in fall, we usually plant our greens here, but now since it's about to be spring, we have 5 different boxes here. This is the most wide open area with a clear view to the sky. And so we plant our tomatoes in this section. And so let's see, we have several varieties. We have about 48 to 50 plants of tomatoes. And there's tomatoes, and then the one in the center has watermelons in it and something called Seminole squash, which is kind of like a pumpkin. It's native to the Everglades. And then coming over here, there's one more row of large tomatoes and then a row right here of cherry tomatoes. Our son loves to pick them, so I put them on the outside edge so that when he comes out here after they're growing, he can pick them himself. There are drip lines running down every row. Each box is filled with compost and topped off with wood chips. And then this year, since it's hard to mow in between, there's straw and leaves wrapped all around them. It keeps me from having to mow, and it also helps, it retains moisture, and as they break down, they automatically fertilize the soil. These are purple basil plants. The basil plants are good companion crops to the tomatoes. Here's our tomato seedlings. They've been growing since January 1st in the greenhouse, and so they just got transplanted out here. Here's a section of our garden that I cleared the land for, so there's plenty of room for some expansion. And then there's some wood over here that I plan to use an old sink to make a veggie wash station off of. The greenhouse has power running through this green cord out of the house, and then all of the watering is run on this this two-station timer, and so it's drip irrigation timer, and this one splits off, and this goes and actually fills up the dog's water dish, and then the other 2 lines run throughout the other 2 lines run throughout the garden so that they can have adequate pressure in each different station so that we can get the whole thing watered quite well. One of my favorite garden projects was building this tree house, playhouse / sandbox covered area and a place for Eli's swing so that Eli can come out here and he can have a place to be fun, to have fun and play around while we're gardening, and then he can watch us, and then he can participate as well. The first level up here is about 3 feet tall, and then there's some kind of like a climbing ladder. The baby gate is holding it off so that it's a little too high for Eli right now, but it gets up to be 6 feet tall, so he has quite a good fort. Also, using an old door. Here's his playhouse area. It has a nice large window on this side, so lots of light. And this is where he likes to come in and out and play. The entire treehouse was built from repurposed wood, and I had to buy some wood as well because I wanted to make sure that it was safe and solid, good for 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old as he grows child to play on for many years. It's safe and it's solid, and it's a whole lot of fun. I built Eli this swing set here using 4x4s and 4x6s. It doesn't have the swing on it right now because it was filling up with water, and but he'll have a couple. It'll accommodate 2 swings. One of Eli's favorite things to do in the garden, and actually helps him learn to work the soil, is this sandbox that I built. It has a cover that lifts back. He has his own gardening tools, and he loves to play with his trucks. And he'll come out here for a long time and do that. And it's covered over so that it gives him some shaded area as well to play. So he can play for a lot longer without having to worry about him getting sun. The whole unit lifts up like this. And these fold out to be like little benches so that he can sit, and the other side does the same thing. And then he has this play sand, this nice play sand, and he'll fill up his buckets and shovels, and he'll have a good old time out here for a long time. And then when he's done, to keep the animals out, we just fold this back, and there it is, covered again. I hope you enjoyed the tour of Eli's garden. If so, please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, share us on social media with your friends, and hopefully this garden will inspire other people to utilize part of their backyard to grow some stuff.